Hello everybody, this is Pitch Skull Black here, and welcome to the Skulls General Reviews episode 4. And today in this Skulls General Reviews, in this installment of the Skulls General Reviews, I'm going to be taking a look at a Target novelisation that I unboxed recently, which I only got through in 2 days because I can get through Target books quite quick. That is Doctor Who and the Underworld. A novelisation of the television story Underworld. And just in case you didn't notice already, I am experimenting a bit with backgrounds a bit. I just thought it would be cool to have this nice little background for the story, for this review, because it's kind of an Underworld, this thing that I've got on my screen. If you don't know what this is Minecraft's version of Hell, but on a modded Minecraft world. But yeah, I thought that would kind of suit this kind of story, because this is a story called Underworld. So let me know in the comments if you like the background. But anyways, let's begin this review of Doctor Who and the Underworld by Terrance Dicks. So without further ado, let's take a look at the cover art. So up here we have Doctor Who and the Underworld, Terrance Dicks. Then up here you've got the Target logo. And then inside this spaceship, I think, or maybe the P7E, I think it's called, P57E, which is one of the two main spaceships in this story. We have the Doctor in the foreground, and I noticed that this is actually a reworking of the famous kind of pose with the rope the Fourth Doctor does on the covers of on the Target covers of and DVD covers, and I believe the VHS cover as well, possibly, on Horror Fan Rock, the famous kind of rope pose which he has around his neck, if you know what I'm talking about. And here you've got two other characters from this story, Henrik, or Herrick I believe his name is, and Tala. And then on the spine we have the Target logo, Doctor Who and the Underworld by Terrance Dicks, number 67. And then this is the back, so up here you've got the blurb, then who this was distributed by, which you can just see there. Just come on. Come on. No, it's not focusing. Then they've got the prices and who did the cover illustration, which is Bill Donahoe. And now for the blurb. Exploring the very edge of the known universe, the Doctor, Leela and K9 discover a group of astronauts researching for the lost gene bank of the Minion race. During their perilous voyage, the astronauts' craft plunges into the heart of a recently formed planet, wherein an awesome secret is hidden. How will the Minion quest end? What must the Doctor wrest from the heart of the Oracle? Now we're going to be moving on to the general consensus of this book. A great story with an undisguisedly heavy illusion at the end, which is a bit of a shame, undermines the well-crafted subtlety of the rest of the book. 3 out of 5. Having never read any Doctor Who before, I don't really have much to compare this offering to, as the science fiction book is pretty mediocre. The seemingly rushed nature and enormous coincidences within this story make it feel more like a first draft of a television episode rather than a novella in its own right. Imagining Tom Baker running around doing the deeds described makes the whole thing more makes the whole thing more bearable, but this probably wasn't the best use of my Saturday morning. Not one of my favourite episodes. Another megalomaniacal computer, another race and thrall, another ancient quest. This isn't to say that Dicks did a poor job in writing it, just that he had an iffy material to work with, in my opinion. 2 out of 5. Doctor Who's revolutionary zeal is pretty apparent in this book, in which he overthrows a slave planet and also ends a millennia-long quest by a very creepy starship crew. 3 out of 5. Okay, nothing spectacular. He continues with the usual Doctor Who theme of human-like society under some tyrannous feudal system. 3 out of 5. So yeah, now for all of that out of the way, now what is my personal thoughts and opinions on Doctor Who and the Underworld. This isn't a very well liked Fourth Doctor television story. People say it's got crap effects, the monsters are crap, and it's just a kind of crap story in general with a rather dull plot. Personally, I actually quite like the plot actually of this story. I find it that this plot has lots of very interesting concepts to it, such as a spacecraft exploring the very edges of the known universe. Like the spaceship is like right on the border of what the universe has created. It's like on the border of the currently created universe and the uncreated universe, if that kind of makes sense, which is a very interesting and fascinating concept that this story has. Another interesting concept that this story has, this story is actually full of like all sorts of interesting concepts and whatnot, such as there are two main spaceships in this story, and the kind of mini quest is all about searching for the gene banks, as mentioned on the blurb, which are contained within the I think it's called the P-57E, which is this spaceship these characters here, Henrik and Tala, are looking for, who are minions, I believe. I think their race name is, and they're basically looking for this spaceship called the P-57E and looking for their gene banks and whatnot. And the P-57E was actually caught in this kind of like gravitational field of a black hole or something or other, and this planet formed around it, which is a really interesting concept. So basically this planet kind of formed around it, around the spaceship. So better visualize it. Imagine if the spaceship was the core of planet Earth, and planet Earth just built itself around the spaceship. That's all a very fascinating and very interesting kind of concept this story has. And the main spaceship of this story, which is where Henrik, Tala, the Doctor, Leela, and the other supporting characters, Orf, I think one of their names is, I can't remember the others off the top of my head right now, but that almost happens to them as well, which is very interesting. But that also happens to their spaceship as well, almost happens to their spaceship as well, where the planet actually starts building around their own spaceship, and their spaceship almost becomes the core of this planet, which is very fascinating and whatnot. So yeah, with all of that out of the way, well, in conclusion, I think the plot is a really interesting kind of concept to this story, with quite creepy monsters at the start, because I'll talk about more of them later, but with quite creepy monsters and some very interesting concepts, as I just mentioned. Now moving on to the characters, I would say that the Fourth Doctor is really good in this story, full of his kind of wit as usual, as kind of Terrance Dicks has kind of depicted him in the target novelisations I have read of him, which are The Face of Evil, The Talents of Wen Chiang, The Invisible Emily, the almost finished reading The Image of the Fendal, and so yeah, he's just full of his kind of witty humour that he has on the television screen. Terrance Dicks has captured the Fourth Doctor really well, I would say, in this novelisation. And yeah, he's a fantastic character in this book, really well characterised and brought to life in this novelisation. I would also say Leela was very well characterised in this book as well. Like towards the end of this book, a battle happens, and all she just wants to do is just to join in the battle and get to the action and shoot people and whatnot. So her kind of savageness, the kind of savage nature, is really depicted very well in this book. For the supporting, and she's a very well realised character as well in this book. The supporting characters, they're pretty good. Herrick is this kind of a person which still firmly believes in this kind of old legend that happened. Basically, it involves the Time Lords and the Minions in some way, but I won't say that because it's but I won't say what that is, because that's all kind of very interesting, and I feel that you kind of need it to experience it for yourself, because it's all a very interesting and fascinating concept. So yeah, but it involves the Time Lords in some way, and Time Lords technically doing wrong in some way, but I won't say what, because I feel like you kind of need to experience that for yourself. But he kind of, but Herrick still, or Henrik, or whatever his name is, kind of still firmly believes in that kind of still believes that the Time Lords are a threat, and really doesn't like the Doctor at the start of this novel, and gradually the Doctor kind of grows on him a bit, and I think Herrick kind of starts to trust the Doctor a lot more in this novel. But yeah, he's a really good character, yeah, just kind of his mind is just kind of fixed on one thing constantly, and that is that the Time Lords are dangerous and all that stuff. So yeah, and the other supporting characters in this book, such as Tala and Orf and the other kind of people and other kind of spaceship characters, and the Trogs, which are these kind of slave workers on Minos 2, which is the main planet in this story, and the planet that forms around the P-57E. So yeah, all of those characters are really interesting. The Trogs and the other spaceship crew. So yeah, the Minions themselves. I really like the Minions in this story. They are kind of very kind of creepy monsters at first, because all you get to see of them at first is these kind of hooded black hooded figures in a way, which is really awesome. It kind of reminds me a bit of the costume of the Grim Reaper from the what's it called, the Visitation, that 5th Doctor story. So yeah. And you really don't get to see an actual kind of face with like the 3 or 2 eyes, whatever, isn't revealed until much later on in this book. I think past the 100-page mark, which is actually towards the end of this book, which is all very interesting. So yeah, the Minions are very interesting kind of monsters, and a very kind of interesting concept for monsters. I would also say that the Oracle, which is the main minion in this story, is this kind of very kind of divine thing. It's basically like the cyber controller from the Wheel in Space or the Invasion. This kind of divine technological beast that just kind of controls everything and keeps everything in motion and whatnot. So yeah, all of the characters in this book are absolutely fantastic. All of the storyline itself is really interesting. So yeah, and overall, I would say Doctor Who and the Underworld is a fantastic target novelisation, in my personal opinion. Do I have any negatives with it? I don't really have any negatives with this book in general. I think the plot. Now I was about to say that the plot wasn't the best of all, but I think it's a really interesting plot actually. Just kind of people that are on a 1000-year quest, like Henrik, Tala, and the other spaceship crew are on this 100,000-year quest or something like that. So I've been on this like 100,000-year quest, searching for the P-57E, looking for the life canisters or the gene banks that they are looking for in this story, and they've had to use these kind of regeneration machines to actually kind of keep themselves alive in a way. It's like when you're near death, you go into this regeneration machine for a couple of... So as I was saying before the camera cut out on me there, that Doctor Who, that the characters Tala and I was about to say Leela, Henrik or Herrick or whatever the hell his name is, and all of the other kind of spaceship crew have to use these kind of regeneration pods, which renews their lives when they are at the end of their life. Pretty much, this is all really interesting and fascinating stuff. So yes, I would say in conclusion, Doctor Who and the Underworld is a really good target novelisation in my personal opinion. It's a very quick read. It's only 123 pages long, so I would say if you're kind of struggling to get into Doctor Who books a bit, I would say this one's a good one to start off with. And yeah, I'm going to have more of a bigger recommendations video coming up sometime soon, which coming up whenever I hit 250 subscribers, because that is my 250 subscriber special. But anyways, I got a bit off track. In conclusion, Doctor Who and the Underworld by Terrance Dicks is a fantastic little target novelisation in my personal opinion. I would say if you like, I would say if you don't like the actual television story of Doctor Who and the of Underworld, I would say you might enjoy this story. I would say you might enjoy this book a lot more, because you don't have to deal with the horrible effects and any bad acting that's in the story. That's the kind of benefit of kind of the target novelisations, and in a way I prefer the target novelisations to the television stories, and in this way where you don't have to kind of actually kind of have to put up with horrible things that you can only experience in the television story, like horrible acting, horrible effects, and kind of horrible sets or horrible production values and horrible music and stuff like that. With the target books, you don't really, and you can't really experience those, because it's all you have to, because you have to kind of read this book, because it's a book and you have to read it to experience it, and you don't have to use your eyes to feast on any visual kind of effects, or use your ears to hone in on any kind of horrible sound effects or anything like that. And so yeah, I would say if you find some terrible things in Underworld, the television story in the world, like the horrible monsters, the horrible effects, the horrible music, horrible acting, horrible whatever, give this book a try, because you might actually like this book over the television story a lot. I would say that's pretty much a guarantee, because I've heard the special effects in Underworld are pretty horrible and whatnot. But yeah, anyways, I'm surprised I actually managed to get that amount of detail into this review, for goodness sake. All ad-lib. But yeah, in conclusion, I'd rate Doctor Who and the Underworld by Terrance Dicks target novelisation an 8 out of 10. Fantastic little target novelisation in my personal opinion. I would highly recommend this book, and I would say if you don't like the Underworld television story, give this book a try, because you might enjoy it quite a bit. So yeah, and that pretty much concludes the Skulls General Reviews episode 4, which is a review of Doctor Who and the Underworld target novelisation. So like, favorite, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Picture God Black, dematerialising.